So this past week, I had the opportunity to teach the Psalm of Shabbat and the psalm that follows it, which I'll focus in on. In March, with quarantine beginning, I began to teach a psalm 3 days a week. And those teachings are a half hour to 40 minutes each of those 3 days a week. And this week, I reached Psalm 91, in which I had the privilege to dedicate that learning to Amy Robinson Katz, on Wednesday to dedicate to Carl Cedar, and to round out our prayer team on Thursday to honor Hal Hurwitz. Each of these psalms takes many hours for me to prepare. It's been my COVID project, and I was delighted to reach a psalm that we sing not only every Friday night, but Saturday morning as well. The Song of Shabbat. If you want to gain that fuller teaching and analysis of how all of Psalm 92 focuses on verse 9, well, go to our website, cbi18.org, and you'll find that opportunity to learn. And likewise, you'll find a fuller description of Psalm 93, but all the more as tonight is a night of water, it felt appropriate to teach Psalm 93. Interestingly, I mentioned that there are 6 psalms that we recite between the Yedid Nefesh and Lecha Dodi, which prepares us for Shabbat and the Psalm of Shabbat. And the psalm chosen in that order breaks the number. It's Psalm 29, that would be the Friday. And instead of what I'm going to say, a few words about Psalm 93, which is distinctly, according to Rosh Hashanah 31a in the Talmud, the psalm designated for the Levites to have sung in the Temple of Jerusalem on Fridays. But what those two psalms have in common is water. Psalm 29 will speak of the voice of Adonai thunders over the waters, Adonai over the great sea. And so in the Psalm of Friday, there is also this image of water. A comment before I read you in English and share some thoughts on how to personalize this psalm tonight in this prayer context. And that is, water is a source of great natural power. First of all, like the rain that's been falling today, it enables a cleansing of the air and a nourishing of all that grows. In that sense, water is not only essential for us, of course, as humans and animals, it's necessary for the world to survive, to produce its crop. But more, or as well, in the ancient world, people were aware of the power of water on which they were dependent. And so many creation stories focused on water. So the people along the Euphrates, their key myth of creation was the myth of the god Marduk, who was the child of a female goddess, and Marduk would both rival his mother, Tiamat, but in that battle, split her into two, the heavens and the waters. And so creation came out as a result of a battle. And in Israel, the ancient people of Canaan referred to the god of the sea as Yam, the same word used in the Bible for the ocean, Yam, and Baal, the god which would mean master, fighting with Yam and asserting authority. In contrast, in the creation story of the Bible, There is water at the very beginning, with God hovering over the face of the water, but rather than fighting with the water, God would assert dominion, control, and create a world of order. And so as I read you this psalm, what is to be first known is that for all of the ancient peoples in that area, whether the Euphrates or the Mediterranean or the Nile, water and control of the seas was seen as creation. And in the Jewish tradition, God is not wrestling with the water or the demons or the gods of the water, but God is supreme. And more, even the waters sing to God, acknowledging God's supremacy and the wonder of creation. And so there's an echo of the myths of all the nations that gets transformed in this psalm to a celebration of creation. But one more piece to acknowledge, and that is the last line. It's only 5 verses, shifts from the first 4 that describe creation to God being manifest amongst created beings, among humans, as not only transcendent, but immanent, a God who provides teachings to lead a moral life. Last comment, and then I'll read in English. The rabbis chose this as the Psalm for Friday, and we include it here in our Sidur's Kabbalat Shabbat as well, because it's a celebration of creation in which the waters and the world and the beauty of nature testify to God's creation. And Shabbat marks the transition from the creation of human beings to the day of rest. And so in English it reads as follows: Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest times, you, God, were enthroned. You are eternal. The rivers rise up, Adonai. The rivers rise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the oceans. Adonai stands supreme in the heavens. In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. Just a little bit of the Hebrew, and then I'll pull this together. Because to appreciate the Psalms, and I do encourage you, if this piques your curiosity, I now have, with this, 91 recordings of analysis of the artistry of these poems to God that are the foundation of Jewish prayer. So carefully woven, both in terms of word selection but also in sound. So listen to these sounds and hear the ocean. Like waves, Nasu Naharot Adonai, Nasu Naharot Kolam, Yisu Naharot Dachyam. And now listen again for the sound of motion. Mikolot Mayim Rabim Adirim Mishbereyam Madir B'marom Adonai. Our psalms are our legacy. Psalms that come to us over 2,000 years that our ancestors read for connection to God, for awakening to the beauty of the world and linking that with the Creator and more. Psalms that were read to provide hope of a future time of a world in harmony. With Psalm 93, as we transition to Shabbat, we're called to pause. And as we hear the sounds of rain tonight, to know we live in a world of goodness in which there are cycles of natural waters that enable us to sustain ourselves. And in pausing to begin Shabbat, we are called to know that our world is a good world, not perfect, but as God declares in creation on that sixth day, it is very good. And more, that it's not just about the past, but this psalm, like so many, also points to the future, La'orech Yamim, to unending days, with the hope of a world in which creation will be fulfilled in its full wholeness, to be a world of harmony. Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, may we read our psalms and sing with those words, for they were meant to be sung in celebration and in reflection. May we know of our privilege to be heirs of words, to become our own words of Shabbat, of celebration, and of hope. Amen.
Amen.